As an FBI special agent was my dream job. My whistleblowing was apolitical and in the spirit of upholding my oath. Nonetheless, the FBI cynically elected to close ranks and attack the messenger.
The FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. We are all examples of that.
Joining us now are Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyle. Thanks for joining us, fellas.
FBI whistleblowers Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyle both join us now. Gentlemen, so glad to have you on the program. Thank you for your testimony.
We need more folks like you, and I'm sure more people are going to be, from your background, are going to be giving you guys more intel as you're sharing that with the rest of us. We can kind of see that this is becoming normal for them to be held accountable, because I think especially an institution that we pay their salaries, they need to be held accountable.
I think a lot of people do share our beliefs and convictions. I think they just aren't at the point that Steve and I and others have gotten to. They're too afraid.
Thank you so much for being a guest here on PBD Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
How big is that bloody flag that Steve's got? It's the whole wall of his house. Lots of love, guys. Thanks very much for joining us.
Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyle. Thank you for being with us this morning. More importantly, thank you for speaking out. We appreciate it.
You're in the information age, but facts are in short supply. Reject the noise, ask bold questions, and pursue the truth with FBI whistleblowers and founding suspendables Garrett O'Boyle and Steve Friend. This is the American Radicals Podcast.
It is the American Radicals Podcast on a Friday, TGIF. We are here, folks. The AMRAD pod is rolling 0930 Eastern time on Rumble. Rumble.com/AMRAD pod is where you can find us Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:30. We're glad to have you with us. And as long as you're with us, make sure that you follow the channel, smash the thumbs up. If you listen to the podcast, the audio format on iTunes and Spotify and iHeart, all of those platforms, do subscribe so you can get the new episodes of the shows when we drop them. And also give us a 5-star rating so that we can continue to grow and expand and reach a greater overall audience. Today, we're talking about a mandate, and not what Pete Buttigieg has planned for his evening, but a real mandate in the fallout of an election that happened a week ago. The requirements are going to be on the incoming presidential administration, the problems that exist, and the corrective action that the American people demanded that they take. And that ranges from diplomacy to education, law enforcement, intelligence collection. We're going to get to all of that today, and happy to get to it on Friday. Exhale. We're heading into the weekend, but we're going to have some fun. Garrett's with me at GOB Actual is where you can find him. Good to see you, sir. Hope you're ready to get at it.
I am inevitable, Steve.
You are the thumbnail king. This is great. For those who only listen, Garrett dropped the Donald Trump as Thanos thumbnail. He had a couple in reserve that we'll have to use for future episodes that were equally impressive. But I like that. I bet you that the boss would probably like the fact that he's got 6-pack abs and some 30-inch pythons there. Those are impressive.
Yes, I would take the Thanos body.
Josh Brolin is a wonder. He's a national treasure, and he didn't even have his face on camera. I'm going to hit you cold with some stuff today. I think that you're going to be kind of a jaw agape at a couple things, but then also have an interesting view when it comes particularly to education. But I want to start with the diplomacy thing because Crier's going to cry. We had the tweets come out overnight about lawyers over at the Department of Justice. They're going to be leaving. And did you know that there's going to be problems at the State Department too?
Oh
Down
no,
at Foggy Bottom.
Oh no, Steve, I can't bear it. I can't bear having less government.
Well, this is so federal government, and we experienced similar things at the FBI, but this comes reporting from The Blaze. The U.S. State Department held therapy sessions for employees after Trump victory. An internal State Department email concerned managing stress during change, the outlet said, adding that employees were encouraged to attend a 1-hour session early Friday, during which they could share feelings about the election results. These are the people that are going to be negotiating with Russia and China. These are our intellectual betters. We definitely don't need to have a complete fumigation. And I was also reminded of the 3 paid hours of mental wellness that the FBI now gives all of its employees per week on the clock. This is your federal government. If there was a mandate to take corrective action, this should be a day one type of issue.
Yeah, I imagine they're getting paid for this hour still at their hourly rate. So all you AMRADs and all the taxpayers across this hopefully soon to be great again land, you're paying for people to have essentially a therapy session because they're to the point of crying and threatening to quit because the person that they thought they wanted for president didn't win. I mean,
How is that even legal? Isn't that a Hatch Act
I,
problem?
I
Because
didn't
you
even
are
think of that, but
advertising your opposition or support to a particular candidate for office, and it is costing the money to the taxpayer because you're not being productive. So aren't you essentially campaigning even though the campaign is over?
that's a very valid point because that I don't know. It's at least a question worth digging into. So day one, can somebody make a Hatch Act violate? Can we get a list of all the people who attended? Because
Well, if there is in fact a day one, and get ready because we're going to have to play this because it's Friday. If there's a day one issue for like an incoming attorney general to take on, um, I'm here for it. And who is going to be heading up the DOJ?
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
now that gets me in the Friday mood, Steve. As you know, I say when you're suspendable, every day is Monday. Maybe it's every day is Tuesday these days, but that'll put you in the Friday mood.
I can't watch that enough,
I
and I
know.
can't watch it without smiling ear to ear. We're gonna have to get to more of that later on in the show, but I couldn't hold that back in reserve. As soon as you said something about indictments, I just think, well, can't wait. I'm here for it.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
so along the lines of a mandate, I think everybody's really excited about the Doge, the
Yes, I'm excited
Department
about the Doge.
of Government Efficiency. It's not an official department because that would actually be an oxymoron. You would expand government bureaucracy to reduce government
Yeah.
bureaucracy. It's so government, but it's going to be headed up by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, or at least they're going to be prominent members of it. They have a Twitter or an X profile now. It's already got over 1 million followers. So apparently they know better than we do how to gain followers.
I like how they're yeah, no kidding. I like how they're one of those X accounts that refuses to follow anybody. Like they're not even following Elon. It's just zero, and then it's
Well, I
like,
mean, they are lean and mean, right? High
yeah,
speed, low drag.
that's
Clicking
right.
on follows is inefficient.
Hmm.
So Musk and Ramaswamy are going to lead the Doge. Trump said in a statement on social media that the department will help dismantle government bureaucracy slash excess regulations. Musk has said he wants to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget. Ramaswamy has called for mass layoffs at the federal agencies to sidestep the legal protections to protect the individual. He's basically said, like, if you have a odd number at the end of your social security number, then we're just going to fire you. And that's one of his hacks, or at least his ideas. I do like and appreciate the idea of cutting $2 trillion from the federal budget. I don't think it's enough, but
No, it's
it's
not enough.
not increasing it. So
Yeah,
that's way to
right.
go.
And yeah, I'm a big fan of this Doge idea, and it can't come soon enough. We've needed something like this for decades, but you already see the opposition, even from Republicans. They're afraid to cut even $1 from federal spending,
Dude, the
even though
cupboards are bare.
yeah, it's 30. Could you imagine? And we'll just zero it down a little bit. But let's imagine that you were $33,000 in debt as a single family unit instead of 33 trillion as a
It's
nation.
36, but yeah, why
Okay,
quibble?
36, 36. See, I haven't checked my ticker in I don't know, a day, and so I'm 3 trillion behind. But imagine that. The bank would seize your house because you're not you're not able to pay uh your taxes, you're not able to pay your mortgage because you're $36,000 in debt. You're not able to pay off your credit card, so your debt is only increasing every month. And who knows what would I mean, you're going to go to small claims court even though you have no money. But then a nation can run this way and just spend like drunken sailors. But even that, a drunken sailor, or I guess in my case, a drunken infantryman, if you spend your whole paycheck, that's it. I mean, you can't even buy Keystone Ice at that point. You're just out of money, and now you got to wait until another week, and then maybe you get your next paycheck. And there were guys who did that. I found myself in that situation sometimes, like getting close to the end of the 2 week period and living in the barracks and going to the chow hall. But if you spent it all, that was it, and you didn't get more until the next time you got paid. But a country just keep spending, just keep spending, just keep increasing the taxes, and don't worry, the people will pay because we have them at the edge of our at the end of our barrel of our gun, and if they don't pay their taxes, well, we'll send armed agents to sort that out.
Too much month at the end of the money. I think Dave Ramsey is famous for saying something like that, and he's gotten a lot of people out of debt. Maybe we should put Dave Ramsey on the Doge.
Yeah.
I want to start that. That's an AMRAD original idea. He might be on board for that. But we'll see. And then there's also I found this story comes from News Nation. And look, we have this mandatory spending, and these stories come out every year that are within the purview of the
Oh,
Congress, the
yeah.
wastes, and you
Uh-huh.
have the Rand Paul Festivus
Uh-huh.
list that he puts out. And I mean, it's red meat, and they should run on it and they should use it. But even if
Yes.
you eliminated it, it's a drop in the ocean to what they're
Mhm.
spending every day. And you even have this current Secretary of State saying that we're going to send every possible dollar to Ukraine until January
Yeah.
20th. But I found this because there are 5 things that could just, be eliminated right away, or at least implemented by a Doge type of thing. So examples of government waste, inefficiency, as Trump announces, the Doge. Here's
The
5.
Doge.
Get your thoughts. Congressional Budget Office found that Congress provided $516 billion
Whew, that's a
this
lot of
fiscal
money.
year to programs that had expired under the federal law.
Hmm.
You know that the Department of Justice and the FBI are expired, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a bury the lead,
Yeah.
but that's again taking the responsibility off the plate of the Congress people, the people that are elected to actually appropriate funds and authorize programs, and yet they're not using that as a tool to bring them to heel, right? If you have an out of control Department of Justice, you could say, hey, you guys aren't even authorized. We are actually outside of policy by giving you any money. Maybe we'll just leave you on the sideline until we reauthorize you in a month or
Right.
two.
Yeah. Yeah. See how you like that. I remember when I was a brand new. Oh, actually, Steve. By the way, I just saw this morning when I woke up because I got the notification on my phone. I'm happy to announce I have been an employee of the FBI for 6 years. Well, actually, I guess a little bit longer.
Did
But
you get an EOD anniversary congratulations from the FBI?
I got my EOD was in July, but I got a notification that because it had pictures, and it was like, take a look back through your whatever camera roll, and I was like, oh, it was graduation day today. How about that? Well,
Hmm,
look at me now, mom. But now I forgot what I was saying. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Trillion. Oh,
Let's get you back on task.
yeah.
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. This
Gets the
morning,
cobwebs out, doesn't it?
yeah, this morning I woke up and I was like, man, it certainly feels like a Monday. But that helps. That really helps. But we were talking about just sidelining the FBI, and you've said it before. We've talked about it. The one-page memo that brought them into existence. It should be that simple to sideline them then. But that's what I was gonna mention, because you said sideline them, don't fund them for a month or two, and see how that goes. It would go horribly because most FBI employees are also spending like drunken sailors, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're spending beyond their means, and they can't miss that next check. And that is a problem. And we've talked about the adjudicative guidelines about with the security clearance stuff. One of those guidelines is financial considerations. Do people in this country really want FBI special agents or anybody in the intelligence community who's holding a secret clearance or a top secret clearance with SCI? Do you really want them living paycheck to paycheck? Doesn't that open them up for some type of, I don't know,
They're
issue.
compromised. They're compromised. They could be co-opted by a nefarious actor, a foreign actor, or just from within a completely weaponized agency that says, you got a pretty sweet gig here. The Golden Eagles crap in your bank
Mhm.
account every 2 weeks, but it'd be a shame if you lost it if you didn't just follow orders.
Right. And we know this is true because I don't even know how many you were under, but when I was a brand new agent, there was a failure to sign a continuing resolution. So we weren't getting a paycheck. And my boss was super concerned. She's like, "You're a new agent. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I can miss a few paychecks because we had money in the bank, because we saved and we spent wisely and we didn't spend beyond our means. We didn't buy the giant house that we couldn't really afford. We bought the house that we could afford, even if it meant missing a few paychecks." And then
Money at the end of the month. Dave
yeah,
Ramsey for the Doge.
you always get your back pay. But we know because there were employees who were absolutely melting down because they missed and I think in that one we only missed one paycheck, and then we
Yes.
got all the back pay anyways.
Yes.
And so it's w- why can't you deal with that? But they couldn't. What would they do? Man, there would be mayhem and meltdown. But here we go. And quite frankly, I will thank the people who have helped us over the last 2+ years. But here we go into 26 months now of this, and still the lights are still on. I'm still paying my internet bill, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But yeah, man, I'm here for it. Shut it down. They did bury the lead in that.
All right. So the federal government has made almost $500 billion worth of payment errors in the last 2 years, just overpaying
Just
people
errors.
for
Ugh.
Social Security or some other welfare benefit. The total amount is 2.7 trillion. So your 33 trillion would have been accurate if they hadn't made the payment errors in the last 20 years. So agencies are using 12% of workspace in their headquarters, and Congress has spent over $3 billion on furniture in the last year to
Dude.
furnish buildings that are unoccupied. That's like a Chinese ghost city, by
Yeah,
the way.
that I mean, that makes Andy McCabe's $70,000 conference room table just a drop in the bucket. You remember that story? Like, I thought of that again recently because he was on CNN talking about how awful of a pick Matt Gaetz is, and uh, it's like,
Disagree.
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
I love it. I mean, every 90 seconds, I would be for it. But he was talking about how Matt Gaetz couldn't qualify for a clearance. He probably wouldn't get hired by the FBI even if he was uh,
Andy McCabe,
interested.
who leaked to the
Right?
media,
Yes. Yes.
conspired to
And it's
overthrow an election.
yeah. And it's like, you know what, dude? And I don't think I ever sent the tweet out. It must be stuck in my drafts because I was like, okay, here's the guy who did leak to the media. Then his Marxist cronies settled with him on the back end because hey, he's a good Marxist. He did something good for the regime by leaking to the media, but then he lied about it. Two federal investigators, and did you know that the OIG investigators were pissed because they wanted charges brought, and then DOJ didn't bring charges, and they just let him walk. Oh, and then he sued, and he won like 700,000, 700 plus $1,000, his back pay, his pension. So he's getting paid. He's getting paid by the taxpayer. He's getting paid by you every 2 weeks still with his retirement, and he's going on CNN. And my favorite piece, I don't know why. I think because it's so petty and it shows the type of hubris and assholery of a guy like Andy McCabe. In his settlement, did you know that he to agree to the settlement, he included his retirement creds, uh, some other type of crap like that, like framed how deputy directors get certain things, and his SES cufflinks, which for those who aren't tracking, SES is the senior executive service. It's the higher ranking officials in government. Dude requested that in his settlement. He probably uses them as anal beads.
I mean, I was thinking about if you had an offer on the table, what you would ask, what would be your ask? And I was thinking of things like, well, I would like to have the contributions I would have made to my retirement account and all the growth that would have accrued there. Those things that would provide for my family. But anal beads on on a mandate. There's a callback to the episode title. Maybe eluded my awareness. Two more, and then we'll move on from this News Nation story about examples of government waste. So the U.S. Mint, it costs 3 cents to make a 1 penny,
Okay, you got to get rid of the penny then. You just have to.
11.5 cents to make 1 nickel.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so the Mint is out of pocket about $180 million a year. And then talk about not paying attention to the people who are the subject matter experts. There basically is like make a recommendation box. How could things get better internally? 5,300 recommendations by employees. And if implemented, they would save between 100 and 200 billion dollars. And they just haven't taken those recommendations up because it's coming from people who aren't like Andy McKay, people who aren't senior executive service and have anal beads on their on their severance package. uh, so away though from the feds for a moment, because education I think should be outside of the the federal government's purview. I would really like to see the Department of Education completely shuttered,
Agreed.
and I think that there's a mandate to do that. Certainly been pledged by Donald Trump. And he's also put a couple other ideas out there about education. And I know you called them the government indoctrination camps, right? They're Satan's youth ministries.
Yes.
But this came from the Washington State Standard, and they itemized a few of the ideas. And some of them I'm kind of like, yeah. And the other ones I'm kind of like, well, I hadn't thought of that. Curious about your perspective because you're a homeschool dad.
Hmm.
And it's interesting to get, I don't know if you would ever enroll your kids in if these all came to pass. I doubt it, but maybe you could say if they're objectively good and advantageous for the other Utes that are stuck in Satan's ministries. So close down the U.S. Department of Education, funding boosts for states and school districts that adopt a parental bill of rights with complete curriculum transparency and universal school choice. I don't know how you would give funding without a Department of Education.
Yeah, would that just filter through the state level then somehow?
I'm
How'd they do it before? I don't know.
maybe I'm about the curriculum transparency. We covered down on that story in Michigan where the teacher individually had developed this curriculum that was critical race theory or something to that effect, and then the parent wanted it, and they said, "Well, the teacher did that in her own capacity, not as an employee of the government." And the Supreme Court for
Yeah.
Michigan said, "Yep, that's true."
Yeah, it's dude, no matter who's in charge, there's going to be depravity in government. It's depravity. But I do like this first point here. That's great. And the parent bill of rights, that's great too because you know who's going to be the spearhead behind a parent bill of rights? The parents who are actually invested, the parents who actually go to the school board meeting. Those are going to be the ones who dictate what's in that type of thing. And so I imagine there would be things in there that cover bullying, that cover tampon Tim's idea of putting tampons in the boys' restrooms, things like that, where you could have a little bit of a return to normalcy. Now, the piece I don't know how you fix is young educators. Have you noticed that trend, by the way, lately in the last, I don't know, couple years at least? I probably started noticing it in the last 3 or 4 years. Teachers don't call themselves teachers anymore. They call themselves educators. I mean,
It's more syllables. It sounds more impressive. It's you went away from from stewardess to flight attendant to flight progress coordinator.
I didn't
They're
even
educators.
know
It's a
that.
lot like healthcare heroes.
Yeah, doing your orchestrated dance with your masks on.
The one of the other proposals that you kind of touched on a little bit was they're going to give preference to schools for funding that have merit-based pay and hiring practices. No tenure for the longest serving educator who's
Yeah.
there. And then this one's a little bit funky. They want to encourage the popular election of school principals. So
Mm,
the parents would vote on the principal and then reduce the number of overall administrators for a school. I don't know if being a school principal is a political position, but then
no,
again, I don't know what the principal's job necessarily is other than being sort of like an administrator. They're not controlling curriculum.
no.
if they're more accountable to the parents, then okay. I don't know if it's an efficient process or not. It just kind of was is a funky one.
Yeah, I remember my principal in high school, and you'd see him roaming the halls sometimes, and
Discipline.
I'll give the guy credit, and maybe you probably can't even do this type of thing now, but I've seen him break up a fight. I've seen him yell at kids. I've seen him, tell kids to lift their pants up. He even told me that one time. And I had sweatpants on, and I'm walking through the hall, and I'm like carrying a bunch of stuff, and I didn't get in trouble. I never got in trouble in high school, and or I never got caught. That's what I should say. But I don't know. I had stuff in my pockets. I had shorts on under, and it's like the end of the school day, and I'm leaving, and my sweatpants are starting to sag a little bit, and I'm like trying to hike them up, and he belittled me for hey, and I'm like, is he talking to me? But anyways, it's I don't know what he did other than that, because it's like you'd see him sometimes in between bells, but I don't know what your job is. I don't know what you do. You just sign the pay stubs for the teachers and the guidance counselors and whatnot. I don't know.
I don't think that they even do that. I think they handle the discipline. They make sure that the facilities are being managed properly. They're just kind of this executive who's there. Or if the teacher can't show up because they're sick, they get a sub. I don't know, but I do remember that teachers, the principals came through education, right? They matriculated up, and that
Hmm.
was a senior executive position
Right,
that a lot
right.
of them aspired to get to, and they had a lot of meetings. Maybe they were having them with $70,000 oaken tables, like
Yeah.
Andy McCabe style, not really doing anything. So
Yes.
it was just kind of an off the wall thing. But I think for the most part, those sorts of reforms in the education sphere are pretty much common sense. And let's go over to this other issue because I don't know how much you tracked on this in the lead up to the election, because there's polls everywhere. Every single day there's a poll coming out. And now that gambling's been broadened out, there's all of these gambling websites, and people were able to gamble on the politics, not in America.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like Polymarket and whatnot.
So Polymarket just had their CEO get
I
raided
s-
by our ex-girlfriend.
I saw that,
Uh,
and I immediately was skeptical because what's going on there?
his name is Shane Coplin, and this happened 2 days ago on Wednesday. Prediction Market was the breakout success in the US presidential election platform where billions of dollars worth of bets were placed on the outcome. The Department of Justice is investigating Polymarket for allegedly letting US users access the site. They're supposed to block US persons from accessing the service after coming to a settlement with the US Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Our government is too big. The Doge
Dude.
should get on the US Commodity Futures Trading Commission and eliminate
Yes.
it. But
Yeah.
people have a VPN, so they're able to get on to Polymarket, place their wagers. And this is a quote from a spokesperson for Polymarket. Quote, "This is obvious political retribution by the outgoing administration against Polymarket for providing a market that correctly called the 2024 presidential election."
I mean, it certainly seems that way, doesn't it? How can it not? And now, have they had this case going for a year and then just decided to pull the plug after the election? That seems dubious. So,
If you place the bet before the election, the crime has already been committed, right?
yeah, I mean,
So you
hmm,
would think that they'd be able to access or get a subpoena or a search warrant if they believe they had probable cause to believe that was going on. Then that should have come out, and the raid should have happened. Why wait until after the election? I think that there's a lot of smoke there. Well, you guys interfered with the election because the polling narrative that we had from Ann Selzer out of Iowa that said Kamala Harris was going to win the state of Iowa. That was really making things look good for us.
who even believe? Did anybody actually believe that?
Oh,
It's
sure.
Iowa. It's Kim Reynolds, Iowa. Give me a break. That I mean, they're one of the few states in didn't like a year ago, didn't they pass some very strict abortion laws or regulation? So Kamala Harris was never going to win Iowa. For those of you who ever thought that that was the case, you need to get your head checked, I guess, because or stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe it just boils down to that. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid that Jen Psaki over at what do we call her?
MSNBC.
What Goebbels,
Oh
Ginger
yeah,
Goebbels.
Ginger Goebbels.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid that she's dishing out over there at MSNBC because uh because then what, your heart gets broken and you need to go into your government job and spend an hour crying about who won the election. I mean, but now you're going to arrest the not actually, no. I misspoke. You are not going to arrest the poly market guy, but you're going to seize his phones and his
You're going to
computer.
raid him, and you're going to see what else you can find on
Right.
those. It's a
So how good was your case to begin with? What PC, how good a PC did you actually have? Probable cause for those at home. Because to me, it just, and yes, I get it, Steve. I'm very skeptical of the FBI these days, more than ever before, probably, because as you learn, because as we've done in the last 2+ years, we've dug a little bit into the history, we've dug a little bit into some of these cases, and every time, just about, we come back and say, that certainly doesn't seem like a righteous case based on everything I know, based on everything I was taught, and based on how I functioned as a law enforcement officer. This seems wrong. And it's time and time and time and time again. And so it's hard to not look at this and say, his company called the election properly. Then afterwards,
But
he
that's
gets raided.
they called it wasn't even a prediction, right?
Right.
A
It was
betting
just,
market is
yeah, yeah,
completely derivative of the people who are participating in it.
that's right. So it was just, it, yeah, you're right. They didn't call it. The
Organic
the
betting that
graph chart,
happened.
yeah, the graph chart just adjusted as people betted. So, I but yeah, raid the guy, seize his
Well,
phones,
I
make
mean,
him look like
it's
the
that
bad
was
guy.
malinformation, right? That was inconvenient information that was
That was
looking
true.
true.
That's right.
So that was a problem, which is why we needed to have a Department of Justice launch an investigation. And look, we have our person. We just need to find a crime, and we'll allege that you allowed Americans to do this betting in there, even though you can't really vet it if the person has a VPN. It's kind of difficult to stop that from happening. And hopefully, when we raid this guy, because we have our person, we'll be able to find something else in there that we can hang over his head and say, look, you can play this the easy way or the hard way. If you want to lose everything, or just plead guilty, and we'll render some sort of judgment where you can make a donation to the Southern Poverty Law Center and make it a
Yeah.
tax deductible sort of thing, which is why we need to have a complete fumigating of the Department of Justice.
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
It
And
doesn't get old.
it doesn't get old. We're going to have to update it, hopefully, for the next piece, because it's about a friend of the Suspendables, fellow Suspendable, Kash Patel,
Oh
who
boy.
they're getting very nervous about over at
Oh
ABC
no.
News.
They don't
How
like this.
Kash Patel could help reshape the FBI. So they kind of go over a lot of things that Cash wrote about in his book, Government Gangsters, and quotes that he's delivered during podcast interviews. He's done a lot of different media because he's a pretty outspoken lieutenant for Donald Trump, and he's the enemy of so many in the media. And I pulled a couple of the excerpts that he was talking about. And I've read Government Gangsters. It's a really good book. It is not just about Russiagate. That's like one chapter. So highly encourage everyone to pick up a copy of it if you're interested in what really goes on. And Cash is just a regular guy. But with regard to Russiagate and everything that went on there, quote, all those who manipulated evidence or hid exculpatory information should face charges. Patel said anyone involved in Russiagate should be stripped of their security clearance.
That seems wholly reasonable. Uh, just take a moment. If you're listening to the show, you probably are up to speed enough. Maybe you weren't all those years ago now. Seems like yesterday, but it was, man, years, almost a decade when Russiagate kicked off. But just take a moment and think back to that period of time, and think back to what Adam Schiff is a great example, because he would he would walk out of some classified briefing, and then he'd go right over to CNN and say, allude to secret information, to classified information that was indicative of Donald Trump being a Russian asset. And they did it for years and years and years, and they propagated this fake hoax. Andy McCabe, $70,000 table. That's when he was leaking to the media and then lying about it, just to further the Russiagate lies. That is a true subversive. That is what subversives do in a nation, to try to overthrow it from within. That's precisely what they do. They're trying to subvert the will of the people. Donald Trump was duly elected. High-ranking officials in government didn't like that, and so they tried to smear him as being an asset of one of our nation's biggest enemies. And again, we've talked about this too. Why is it always Russia? It's been Russia for decades and decades and decades. Just leave. They're going to meddle. We're going to meddle in their stuff. They're going to meddle in ours. But the Cold War just keeps going, keeps going. And now
It's a good
it's
way to get a lot of the Nikki Haley types on board with the Democrats, right? Because they're still fighting the Cold War. They still think that Rocky Balboa has not knocked Ivan Drago out. It happened in the 12th round, folks. Did you not stay for the whole movie? So, regarding Clinton being, we're just not going to pursue that. I mean, she was reckless, but she just wiped it with a rag. The whole Biden cabal, the whole family, everything that was going on there, the special counsel, and he's
man,
got bad memory,
there's
and
so
Hunter
much.
Biden,
Yeah.
all the pay for play, and even January 6th. This is a quote from Cash. Quote, those specific prosecutors and divisions within the department that selectively apply the law should be removed and brought to heel.
Mm-hmm. That's a reasonable stance. That's all that is.
He wants to publicly disclose all Russiagate documents, Epstein list, P. Diddy list.
Yeah. Why not? Why can't we know that information? Why shouldn't we know? Is it because we're too dumb? Where there's too many rubes amongst us? Then we can't tell the people the information that the people want because they don't have a security clearance.
He's a radical when it comes to the FBI headquarters. He said, close the building down, open it up the next day as a museum to the deep state.
Concur.
But it's a throwaway line. He's joking.
Yeah,
He said,
right.
leave about 50 people from its staff somewhere in Washington to help keep the agency running and send thousands of other agents into the field to go and do the work and actually limit the number of prosecutions they do in Washington, D.C. because the jury pool is so biased.
That seems like a reasonable stance to me, Steve. I really don't. Of course they're going to try to throw stones because we can't slash it. What about the security to our nation? You people must not know if you have that stance. You must not know what it is they do in the FBI because not a lot of people are out there really getting after it.
No, especially today because today's Friday. We're gonna have Federal Friday rolling in.
59-minute rule.
59-minute rule at the very least. And I thought I listened back to when we talked about the 59-minute rule, Garrett. That's the most time that someone who is below the senior executive service can give. That's what the policy is. They can't give you 2 hours off. That's why you get the 2 hours off from the boss,
Oh yeah.
all the way in headquarters. But the 59-minute rule, I believe, can come from like a special agent in charge or maybe an assistant special agent in charge. But we always got it when the assistant special agent in charge was filling in for
Acting.
the special agent in charge because that guy took the day off. I want to buy some love from the people, and I'll just send them home.
Yeah.
Euro.
See, everybody's for populism.
Look,
Even ASACs in the FBI.
the people demanded it, and in the FBI, you have AL, which is annual leave, you have SL, which is sick leave, and then I was introduced to JL, which is just leave, and that happens just about every single Friday. You just walk out, roaming the hallways around 3:30 in the afternoon of a headquarters city in the FBI is very much like most of the buildings in Washington, D.C., about 12% occupancy.
Yes, that checks out. Or you get the hey, don't you guys have surveillance to do somewhere?
Go do some surveillance at your house.
Yeah.
All right, stay on the DOJ, and this is more development coming on. The Jack Smith cases are being sewn up. Now, we're going to see what flushes out with the report as it comes to this. But Jack Smith and his team are going to resign before January 20th when Donald Trump takes office. The looming question, though, in the weeks ahead is whether or not his final report detailing his charging decisions will be made public before Inauguration Day. The special counsel's office is required under Justice Department regulations to provide a confidential report to the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who can choose to make it public. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that they're going to make it public if he has the goods, if he has a criminal charge? I don't think he makes it public.
No,
because they're going to want to say that, why Donald Trump? Why don't you make it public? Why don't you ask your attorney general to make this public? What are you possibly hiding? or if they don't have the goods, then they're in a pickle because he's definitely going to make it public. You
Right,
think
right.
for a minute that this
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
you think that guy is not going to try to exonerate Donald Trump?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So
Here's
then
the
they
thing.
shred it. They'll shred
What?
it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and I know we've got so many laws that it is show me the man, I'll show you the crime, and they've been trying that with Donald Trump for the better part of a decade now, and it really ramped up in 2020 after he lost, and it's
81 million, Garrett.
sure,
81
yeah,
million
sure
of
for
your
the
fellow
doddering.
citizens, 15 million of which disappeared this go
Yeah,
around.
where'd they go? I mean, they were telling us, Steve, for months that it's the most consequential election in our lifetime, and 15 million people just poof, they got snapped away by Thanos or what? And
Yes, the throwback to the thumbnail. I think the Omicron variant got him.
oh, it could have been that. Yes, the Omicron variant, or were they just they don't care enough about their civil duty that they couldn't even mail in a ballot this time. I don't know, but man, I'm way off the rails today. I was gonna say some. Oh, about the. Do you think so they don't have a legitimate thing. I don't think. If there was something legitimate, they would have found it by now. And whether it was Jack Smith or Fanny or Letitia, if there was anything legitimate, they would have found it. Because Democrats are good. They're good at what they do. They're good at this lawfare game. They're good at this, they're better at politics. Like take the vote for Matt Gaetz. I don't think he's going to get confirmed because there are too many Republicans who aren't really conservative. And when you look at the vote tabulation for Merrick Garland, there are plenty of Republicans who voted yay. And I think a lot of them aren't going to give a yay for Matt Gaetz, which I think is absurd. And I think that is subversive as well.
Just
And
from a personal standpoint, if you think he's a jerk, he's obnoxious, that's his persona. He's an obnoxious guy, right?
mhm,
Doesn't confirming him get him out of your hair at
right.
the Capitol building? You don't have to deal with him anymore. In fact, you get to grill him on hearings.
Yeah.
Right? You could be the quote unquote Republican from Alaska or Maine and go in there and try to tank him and make him
Yeah.
look really bad if that's really what you wanted to do. You
Right.
would think that just from a self-serving standpoint that confirming it would be good for you. And then from us, look, Matt Gaetz, his entire persona aside, he's secretly a class act.
That's been my experience.
All of our experience, for those who don't know, he has been basically the only rep who has reached out and tried his best to help us, but just doesn't have the institutional power to do it. But has had his staff reach out and continually maintain a conversation with us and said, I'm going to try to do X, Y, and Z. And he's only one of 435. I give him grace on the fact that wasn't able to get some of those things done, but at least he tried. And I
Right.
didn't get that from many other reps. And for you and me both, he was at our depositions that we did. He was there and he was participating in it. He wasn't just there to observe. Congress was not in session when
No.
we both went in front of the transcribed interview. He didn't have
Right.
to stay there. He didn't
No.
have to come in. He didn't have to go to work. He could have gone back to his constituents like in Florida or just hung out at his house. Instead, he came in, he asked questions of us. And that is why when you and I went and testified, he was one of the only members that got good questions and responses from the witnesses because he's an actual trained prosecutor that way. He didn't just pontificate and wax poetic for 5 minutes and say, reclaiming my time, and then yield the floor.
Right, right. Yeah, and maybe it's short-sighted on my part because I'm looking at it wholly from my experience. I have limited experience with other members, but with him, that's all it took for me was when I showed up for that deposition and he was there. I was like, "Oh, this guy actually cares." And I didn't even make protected disclosures to him. I didn't go to his office, and he was there because it mattered. And so you see all this crap on social media about, oh, well, now he resigned his seat. And why did he do that? He hasn't even been confirmed as AG yet. And oh, they're going to drop the ethics committee. And there have been people after, and I don't know all the details. I do know this. He's not a perfect man because none of us are. if you dug into the skeletons of my closet, you'd be like, "Dang, GOB, like that." Yeah, I know you tell us you're a sinner, but we didn't know you were that bad. And and I think that's the case for all of us. And so they're digging and digging and digging. The FBI, he beat the FBI because they were coming at him too for freaking child sex trafficking stuff. Give me a break.
The narrative that they've set up with regard to the allegations get against Matt Gaetz are either they have completely made it up to besmirch his reputation and beleaguer him throughout his entire career in the Congress, or they have the goods on this guy and have had them for years, and he's some groomer pedo that they've allowed to remain in the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
Why don't you choose which narrative you want to go with on
Hmm.
neither of which is good, both of which require a fumigation of the
Yeah.
Department of Justice,
Hmm.
which is going to come at the hands of Matt Gaetz.
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
It seriously does not get it does not
All
get
right. Uh, so we can. I got a couple of other stories here that just are kind of fun to get to, especially because it's Friday. Had a heavy week. Been in communication with people, and they're trying to get. Here's the thing: people have reached out to you and me and other suspendables for ideas and suggestions. So I mean, at least credit where credit is due. I think that there are people that are genuinely trying to bring this mandate that we're talking about today to fruition and not just make it all talking points. So I appreciate that effort. So we've had a couple of late nights and conversations been going on. Feels like I
I
lost
know.
track of the days anyway because Monday
Yeah.
was a holiday, but it's been a long week. I've got
What
two
holiday was Monday?
Veterans Day. Do you didn't get a waffle?
No, that's right. No, see how little I care about
Every day
veterans?
is Monday.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, man, that's funny. Um, yeah, it has been a long week. I'm tired, man. I was up till after it was about 12:30. I finally went upstairs because I'm working on this stuff. Some of you may know if you follow me at GOB Actual on Twitter or X. I'm in this lawsuit and they need a bunch of DOJ's requesting all sorts of off the wall crap, and it's just absurd. It's ridiculous. There's no way you could. What's funny is some of the things they've requested are transcripts of your congressional testimony. Okay, there's like 35 people in this lawsuit. Guess how many of them have testified to Congress? Just one, just me. And then it's social media posts, podcasts where you talked about COVID or the FBI. And Kyle's in this lawsuit as well. And so it's like, you want every single link? That seems wholly unreasonable. I don't have them all. And
Do you
also,
think they could listen to all the podcasts between now and then?
they better. Maybe they'll get, I have the dang it. This is where I need to be better on the computer. Because I got that meme where it's like an FBI agent at the desk, like laying over in the computer, and then the words say, my FBI agent, after 2 months of reading my posts, they've been red pilled or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's good stuff.
You radicalized them.
Yeah.
So this one is not America, but this guy's become a darling of a lot of libertarian, conservative-minded people. That's this Malay president of Argentina. I saw this report came from the Babylon, not the Bay, not the B, not the B. This is actual news element, and the video there, the GIF of him with the chainsaw as he's
Yeah.
taking a chainsaw to government is hysterical. But
Can we
Malay,
hire him for Doge?
he's taking aim at a law that's supposed to prevent kids from becoming werewolves.
What?
Apparently, in Argentina, if a mother gives birth to a seventh son or a seventh daughter, Garrett, you got work to do.
Oh
Three
boy.
more.
3 more.
That seventh
Can't do it.
same gendered child is cursed to become a werewolf
They
when the
do
moon
know.
is full, unless the leader of the nation performs a sacred rite and becomes the child's godfather. This is a law in Argentina. The rite involves attending the child's baptism, placing a gold medal around their neck, giving them a scholarship towards their education, and giving them a nominal fee ranging from $150 to $300 a year for life. Since this law was passed 117 years ago, 12,000 children have been enrolled in the program.
Wow. That's a lot of
Yeah, they're good at
seven.
making babies in Argentina.
Yeah. Wow. Well, maybe they don't believe in infanticide as much as we do up here. But that's an Do you know is Argentina, are they Catholic? Are they heavy Catholic like Brazil?
I believe so.
So that's an interesting mix then.
Pelé isn't. He's Jewish.
Oh, oh, okay, that's weird. Um, so is he a Zionist? Now we're really gonna get going deep.
I haven't consumed the full catalog of Javier Milei's
Yeah.
beliefs on things. I just mostly was distracted by the chainsaw
I was just gonna
gif.
say I was basically getting hypnotized by the chainsaw GIF or GIF. Are you a GIF guy or a GIF guy?
Whatever doesn't get me canceled.
I say GIF usually, I think, but sometimes I switch it up. But anyways, that's interesting. This werewolf law, I've never heard of such a thing. 117 years old. Maybe they should. I mean, I've not heard the conspiracy theories about werewolves yet. If you hit me with them enough, I might just believe them. But I don't think werewolves exist. So
How dare you?
maybe.
You didn't watch the Thriller video, which I watched with my kids, and they can't understand the music video. They're like, "Wait, that doesn't make sense." They're looking for a plot. I'm trying to explain. You guys understand? It was a weird time. It was the 80s and 90s. We didn't have good entertainment, so we watched music on TV, and they
Yes.
tried to throw up some things that don't really have a connective storyline, a plumb line. There's no story arc.
And you could call in with a dial-up phone, and if you were lucky enough, you could pay a couple dollars and you could request a song. Do you remember those channels? We had
Yes, I do. I
on your phone.
do. Child of the 90s, but my youngest son was his brain broke. He was like, "Well,
What?
the werewolf, is this the first time in history that that happened?" Like, I'm gonna
Uh,
need some
no.
more information before I can answer that question, son. All right. One more, and this is for back to the homeland, back to the mandate. If you are not here for the Thanos snap mandate as it rolls in here to fix the deep state, you do have the option to go on vacation for 4 years. Reporting from who's this livemint.com. Want to escape Donald Trump's term? 4-year world cruise to 140 countries, 425 ports for $50,000 a year. This company is called the Villa V Residences, U.S. cruise company, offering Americans the ultimate escape, a 4-year voyage. The Skip Forward cruise is designed to last the entire length of Trump's term and provide unique opportunities for those looking to leave the U.S. and explore some bleep hole countries. That's my own editorializing. Sorry. The cruise, which will stop at 425 ports, 140 countries, gives travelers the chance to experience a global lifestyle and see all the poverty in Haiti. Prices for the multi-year package start at $40,000 a year. You know, $40,000 is getting you into like steerage, where the Irish people were dancing in Titanic. You're getting the porthole that's just a picture. It's
Yeah.
not an actual window.
It's so well, first of all, I want it to sink, but hey, it's Friday. We can have some fun, right? But 425 ports, that sounds horrible to me. That's the last thing I'd want to
For
do.
you're like, look, I can't even. I went to the State Department emotional coping program. It didn't do the trick for me. I need a 4-year booze cruise.
Mm,
After which I'll come home and literally Hitler, the Orange Man, bad. He will not have irrevocably destroyed the country. Right? We'll
right.
just go back to the way things were, the great days of
Yes.
Bidenflation.
Yeah. But then too, it's who are you people who are even considering this? Where did you get your wealth? And are you really gonna spend it on this to go do this? Because if you really can't cope, then I guess I have nothing for you. But wouldn't you think those type of people would be the ones who would just carry the banner forward and say, "All right, now we really got to do the work and save our country because Donald Trump's a Nazi and a communist,
No
and
justice, no peace.
flee to the Middle East or something."
Yes, yes, our natural allies to throw us off the building tops because
Yeah.
we're wearing LGBTQ rainbow kamikaze paraphernalia. All right, I've got a palate cleanse. We've come up on the end of the 1-hour program today, Garrett. What you got for us to set us off on the weekend? Let's
You
fill up our
know,
cups.
Steve, I was too busy trying to find this box promo, which I will play because did you remember this TV channel?
I think so.
The box.
The box believes you know what you want. The box believes you know what you want. The box believes you know what you want.
music, television, you control. So I didn't actually have anything prepared. I'm ashamed. See, you know how I mentioned my evil sin? There it is right there, because I didn't even prepare a Bible verse for us, Steve. But I'm going to find one for us right now.
Well, how about I do let's do a inverse, and I will send off the audience on our palate cleanse to begin with, and then you can fill up our cup after that. But I don't know. I'm pretty strong with the palate cleanse today, so I think that this is going to do the trick for us. That's SNL back when they were trying to be funny, and back when they
Yes.
liked Donald Trump.
Did you see their cold open or whatever they call it? The most recent one after the election, where they're all standing, they're like acting like he's going to throw them all in jail and claiming they all supported him before. It was kind of funny, but at the same time, it's nobody there. There's nobody there who probably felt safe enough or comfortable enough to speak up, even if they did truly support him, which that's the thing that I think needs to change as well. The Hollywood mainstream it's gone so far. It doesn't represent even a modicum of what regular Americans are all about.
And I mean, I was surprised NBC actually left that up. That's an archive. That's like 20 years old, that clip. But I thought it was funny. It's the Prince and the Pauper.
I bet we get dinged on YouTube for it because, which I don't care. It doesn't matter. But because we get like 7 views over there if we're lucky. But the thumbnails look good over there though. But all right, I do have something. But first, I have to do this, Steve. I have to shame myself. It's only appropriate.
Shame. Shame. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. This was serious, but it turned into something fun.
I you know the shame bell. I was gonna do the original, and then I saw that. I was like, hey, it's Friday. We got to go Family Guy shame. We must
Make shame great again.
That's right. Make shame. You know what? Absolutely. Make shame great again. But I do have something here coming from the mighty book of Romans, Romans 3, starting in verse 21. But now the righteousness of God has been manifested apart from the law, although the law and the prophets bear witness to it, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. For there is no distinction, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and are justified by his grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a propitiation by his blood to be received by faith. This was to show God's righteousness, because in his divine forbearance he has passed over former sins. It was to show his righteousness at the present time, so that he might be just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. So that is the biblical worldview verse of the day, because I know I jokingly say, not even jokingly, it's true. I do sin. I have sinned. I will continue to sin. But Jesus Christ is our propitiation through his blood and his work on the cross. And if you have more questions about that, hit me up. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on X, especially. That's where I am most. But Truth, Instagram, GOB Actual, everywhere. Substack, which reminds me, I got to get a Substack out there one of these days soon. We'll see.
All right. We did have a Rumble rant come in, and want to definitely say thanks for that, because, guys, if you've been in the chat with us the whole time, if you haven't already, do smash the thumbs up and follow the channel. But we had a Rumble rant come in from Peaches62. Happy to see your numbers growing. Remember to give a thumbs up and share. Amen to that, Peaches.
That's right. Please do share. Peaches, 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 peaches. Bowser.
And we will send you off on your weekend one more time.
The next pick in my cabinet draft, I select Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Way to go, Matt.
Have a great weekend, guys.
You've been listening to the voice of the Suspendables on the American Radicals podcast. Follow us on rumble.com/amradpod.